Let's start with a prison that's intimidating, but nowhere near the worst. Coming in at number 5 is San Quentin State Prison. Located in California, San Quentin is a maximum security prison and one of the most infamous correctional facilities in the world. Over the years, it's housed some of America's most notorious criminals, including Charles Manson, Richard Ramirez, better known as the Night Stalker, and several high-profile gang leaders and serial killers. What made San Quentin especially dangerous was its powerful gang culture. New inmates often felt pressured to join a prison gang almost immediately. In many cases, your race determined which group expected you to stand with, leaving very little room for choice. Being in the wrong area at the wrong time could quickly turn into a life-threatening situation. But despite its violent reputation, San Quentin has changed dramatically over the years. Today, many inmates spend their time gardening, playing sports, performing music, or taking yoga and art classes. The prison also offers educational and vocational programs, including plumbing, culinary training, and even coding courses, giving inmates practical skills to help them rebuild their lives after release. Number 4 is Saycut, the massive mega prison located in El Salvador. It's the largest prison in the Americas, currently holding around 15,000 inmates, with enough space to accommodate up to 40,000. The facility houses members of two of the country's most notorious gangs, MS-13 and Barrio 18. Many were identified through the tattoos and markings that openly displayed their gang affiliations. Outside prison walls, these rival gangs spent years locked in a brutal conflict, responsible for countless murders and violent attacks. Inside CECOT, however, everything changes. Despite their rivalry, inmates are expected to coexist under extremely strict rules. Any serious misconduct can result in solitary confinement, a small concrete isolation cell where prisoners may spend at least 15 days and sometimes much longer. So what makes CECOT one of the world's most feared prisons? For many inmates, it's effectively a life sentence. Most are expected to spend the rest of their lives behind its walls. Visits are not allowed, and many will never leave the facility again. Even their daily exercise is heavily restricted. Prisoners are given about 30 minutes a day, but it takes place inside the prison, only a short distance from their cells. One of the most controversial aspects of CECOT is that human rights organizations and news outlets have reported that some detainees may have had no gang connections at all. Critics argue that during the government's crackdown on gangs, some innocent people were arrested alongside actual gang members. The issue remains the subject of ongoing debate and international attention. At number 3 is San Pedro Prison, located in La Paz, Bolivia. It's one of the world's most unusual prisons. Built for around 600 inmates, the facility now holds roughly 3,000 people. And that's not even including the wives and children who live inside, since many prisoners are allowed to have their families stay with them. So what makes San Pedro different from almost every other prison? There are no correctional officers patrolling the inside. Instead, the prison is largely managed by the inmates themselves. Walking through its streets feels less like entering a prison and more like visiting a crowded neighborhood surrounded by high concrete walls. Police remain outside the facility, guarding the entrances and deciding who is allowed to enter or leave, while daily life inside is mostly left to the prisoners. The inmates even elect their own leader, who is responsible for maintaining order throughout the prison. That leader then selects a group of enforcers to keep the peace. They're easy to recognize, often wearing matching black Adidas tracksuits, making them stand out from everyone else. Surprisingly, the prison even has markets, small businesses, restaurants, and soccer fields, giving it an atmosphere unlike any traditional prison. But despite appearing almost like a small town, life inside can be extremely dangerous. One of the biggest problems is the widespread drug trade operating within the prison. Illegal drugs are reportedly produced and sold inside, making them easy to obtain. Some estimates suggest that more than half of the inmates struggle with drug addiction. Among the most common substances are coca-based drugs and cocaine, both of which have fueled addiction and violence for years. As a result, the prison sees frequent overdoses, violent attacks, and murders, making San Pedro one of the most unpredictable prisons in the world. At number 2 is Antananarivo Prison in Madagascar. Some prisons are feared because of violence. Others are known for drugs and torture. But Antananarivo earns its reputation because of its extreme overcrowding and horrific living conditions. The prison was originally built to hold around 800 inmates, but today, it's estimated to house nearly 4,000. With that many people packed into one facility, disease spreads incredibly fast. Visitors have even said you'll notice the smell long before the prison comes into view. And the overcrowding doesn't stop with the prisoners. The entire prison is infested with cockroaches, rats, lice, and fleas. Many inmates are covered in insect bites from head to toe, making daily life even more miserable. Every evening, around 5 p.m., prisoners are locked inside their cells until morning. These cells are small, poorly ventilated rooms with a single shared toilet for everyone inside. Once the doors are shut, the heat quickly becomes unbearable, and most inmates are left sleeping directly on the concrete floor. They're packed so tightly together that moving around is almost impossible. In fact, when it's time to change sleeping positions, one inmate will clap, and the entire row turns over at the exact same time because there's simply no room to move individually. As terrible as that sounds, the punishment cells are even worse. Any inmate who breaks the rules can be sent to an isolation chamber known as the hell hole. The floor is reportedly covered with human waste, trash, and dead rats, creating conditions that are almost impossible to imagine. Because of the prison's severe rat infestation and poor sanitation, outbreaks of deadly diseases, including the Black Plague, have been reported over the years, with numerous inmates losing their lives. At number 1 is Camp 14, also known as Kachon Prison Camp in North Korea. This isn't just another prison. It may be one of the most terrifying places on Earth. In most countries, people end up behind bars because they committed a crime. But Camp 14 operates very differently. Around 40,000 prisoners are believed to be serving a lifetime of forced labor. The most disturbing part is that many of them never committed any crime at all. Among them are women, children, and even toddlers. Their only offense was being related to someone accused of a political crime. That could mean criticizing the government, attempting to escape the country, practicing a banned religion, or simply being viewed as disloyal to the regime. Life inside the camp is almost impossible to imagine. Food is so scarce that starving prisoners have reportedly survived by eating frogs, rats, snakes, and even grass. But there's another horrifying catch. If an inmate is caught eating anything that isn't officially provided, they can be executed on the spot. Starvation is one of the leading causes of death inside the camp, and it isn't a quick death. Victims slowly waste away as their teeth loosen and eventually fall out. Their bodies begin to break down, and many develop severe swelling caused by fluid buildup, a condition known as edema. For many prisoners, that's how life ends. Disease is another constant threat. Malnutrition and the harsh environment leave inmates vulnerable to illnesses such as pellagra, tuberculosis, hepatitis, and severe stomach diseases. During the freezing winters, many also suffer from frostbite. For some, the suffering becomes too much to endure. But even taking your own life doesn't end the punishment. If the prisoner has relatives inside the camp, those family members can also face punishment for what happened. The punishments themselves are brutal. Beatings, painful stress positions, and isolation cells are used regularly. And if the guards decide to make an example of someone, a firing squad can appear without warning. Perhaps the most chilling fact of all, Camp 14 is only one of North Korea's political prison camps.